Hello, my astounding pre-calculus class. Today we're going to review our homework before you take the quiz. And I'll probably show you the basics. You know what to do. So I'll show you what's happening here. The very first home practice problem that we had to graph using the 5 steps. Y equals 2 times tan of x. Our inequality, you have to get 1x in the middle. It's already there. First critical number, vertical asymptote. Fifth critical number, vertical asymptote. The period formula, pi divided by the absolute value b, pi. The increment, the period divided by 4. Again, remember to stop, rewind, review, because this is a little bit fast. The 5 critical numbers. Our first critical number here is negative pi over 2. We add our increment pi over 4. And I changed the negative pi over 2 to negative 2 pi over 4 because, again, remember to add and subtract fractions, you have to have what like denominators. Okay. Then here's our third critical number, fourth critical number, fifth critical number. So when we get through, here are our critical numbers. And I would like to have these critical numbers on the graph. Some of you, when you were doing the home practice, you did not label your critical numbers on your graph. They have to be on your graph. I want you to show me the vertical asymptotes. Since the a is greater than 0, as we move from left to right, the function is going to be increasing. So the second critical number, we use the a to help us find a point on it, on the graph, the tangent graph. The middle critical number is always on the horizontal axis. The fourth critical number, use the a to find a point on it. And then it's half concave, down and then up, never crossing, never touching the vertical asymptotes. You had 2 home practice problems that first day. And the second one was 3 times tan of a negative x. So here you see 3 times tan of a negative x. I said, remember your even odd properties. Tan of a negative x is the same thing as a negative tan of what, a positive x. So we're going to write this 3 tan negative x, make it negative 3 tan of a positive x. I'm going to make that positive. Put this between our two our two endpoints rather. We're trying to get 1x in the middle, and it's already there. So the first critical number, vertical asymptote. Fifth critical number, second consecutive vertical asymptote. Period, pi divided by b, so it's equal to what, pi. The increment is the period, which is pi divided by 4. And we're using that increment to help us find the other critical numbers. So, again, the first critical number, we add our increment. Third critical number, fourth critical number, fifth critical number. And again, I'm going a little bit fast, but remember you can always stop and rewind. And we have done this before in some of the videos that we've already talked about. So here we have our, 5 critical numbers. Then we're going to do this on our graph. So we're graphing this part right here. You see once we made that positive. So since the a is less than 0, as we move from left to right, it's going to be a decreasing function. And again, you use your a to find a point. Here the middle point is always on the horizontal axis. We use our a to find a third point. And that was the second part. Now, the second day, we changed the b from 1 to another number. So here we have the y is equal to 3 times tan of 2x. We put the 2x between the two endpoints. Some of you forgot that you have to have a 1x in the middle. So we had to divide by 2, which is the same thing as multiplying by half. When we did that, we got a negative pi over 4 for one vertical asymptote and pi over 4 for a second consecutive vertical asymptote. Here we have our period, which is a pi divided by the b. The increment is the period, which is pi divided by 2, which all of that is divided by 4. Dividing by 4 is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal, which is 1 over 4. So the increment will be pi over 8. The increment will be pi over 8. And we use that increment To find our 5 critical numbers, I changed the negative pi over 4 to negative 2 pi over 8 because the increment is in eighths. So first critical number, add the increment second, add the increment the third critical number, add the increment the fourth critical number, add the increment, and we get pi over 4. So here again, we have our 5 critical numbers. And again, remember to stop, rewind, review. Okay. And finally, we want to look at the graph. Remember to put your 5 consecutive critical numbers here. Sketch your vertical asymptotes and show me the 3 points that are on that graph, okay? And that's that graph of y equals 3 times tan of 2x. Then the third day, I added a c to the problem, to the tan function. So I'm going to take the bx minus c, put it between the two endpoints here. And I changed everything to 6 because, you know, again, you can only add and subtract fractions when you have like denominators. So I added the increment. Well, excuse me. I just added the 2 pi over 6, which is the same thing as what? The pi over 3 here. And I got negative pi over 6, and then I have what the 5 pi over 6, which is what we have here. And then we're going to the same procedure, the same 5-step procedure. We go through here, we found our period. Our increment is pi over 4. Then we come in and we find our 5 critical numbers. Change everything to 12ths because you had a 6 and a 4, so the LCD is what, a 12. And the first critical number, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. And again, I was just adding with the increment. And here are our 5 critical numbers. Then we're going to look at our graph right here. And again, the a, which is 2, is greater than 0. So as we move from left to right, it's going to be what, an increasing function. So I list all of my critical numbers here. I sketch my vertical asymptotes, and I do my points. And again, remember, stop, rewind, and review. And then our fourth home practice problem, we take the pi over 2x minus pi over 2, put it between the 2 endpoints here. We're going to add pi over 2 to all 3 sides of the inequality. So we end up getting 0 is less than pi over 2 times x, which is less than pi. And remember, pi is the same thing as what, 2 pi over 2. We have to undo multiplying by pi over 2, which is divide by pi over 2. And when we divide by pi over 2, it's the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal, which is what, 2 over pi. So this gives us 0. The pi's cancel out, the 2's cancel out, x. Pi's cancel out of 2. First critical number, fifth critical number, 2 consecutive vertical asymptotes. Then we're going to have our period, which is 2. Dividing by pi over 2 is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal, 2 over pi. The pi's cancel out. The period is 2 divided by 4, which reduces to a half. I find my critical numbers by adding my increment. So these are the 5 critical numbers. Here, I put my 5 critical numbers, sketch my vertical asymptotes, and the a, which is pi over 4, which is greater than 0, you see, to get my other points on my graph. And that is our review. And again, I kept saying, stop, rewind, review. And you're going to find your quiz under the assignments. You may have to go to like coursework, assignments, but it's named March 27, 2020 quiz. And you know it's in what, plus portals. So hope you do very, very good on that quiz. Thanks. Bye-bye.